Hello. Today I'm presenting research conducted in collaboration with Oliver Haimson, Eddie Melcer, and Elizabeth Churchill that was funded by eBay Research Labs. Our team wished to investigate the experience of secondhand fashion reacquisition. To do so, we conducted ethnographic fieldwork of secondhand shopping in the San Francisco Bay Area. Why study secondhand shopping? First, because vintage means value. Secondhand retail is a $12 billion industry in the United States. Used clothing accounts for 25% of this value. These sales take place in brick-and-mortar outlets and also in a growing variety of online stores, including eBay, The RealReal, Threadflip, Etsy, and Rue La La. In addition, the values around secondhand fashion reacquisition are shifting. Secondhand shopping is traditionally associated with a desire to be thrifty or save money. Researchers now find that shoppers are motivated by factors including nostalgia, ego-conscious or anti-consumerist values, and also the desire to find pleasure in the secondhand shopping experience itself. We're not the first to study secondhand shopping in HCI. Pearson Palos examined general secondhand interactions, finding 4 different reacquisition orientations. Their casual reacquirers and necessary reacquirers are traditional secondhand shoppers, motivated primarily by thrift. In contrast, critical reacquirers are driven by social, political, or ethical considerations around shopping. Experiential reacquirers enjoy the acquisition experience itself. These later 2 categories are labeled invested reacquirers, and we also use this term to describe the participants in our study. In addition, researchers in fields like marketing and consumer psychology may study secondhand retail shopping specifically. One team constructed 4 consumer segments to influence retail strategies. They're polymorphous enthusiasts, thrifty critics, and nostalgic hedonists can all be considered invested reacquirers per Pearson Palos. While this work presents a strong foundation, many researchers have focused their attention on a single attribute of reacquisition, such as the motivations of secondhand shoppers or the objects pursued. Previous work within HCI has also focused specifically on design to support sustainable practices. Our work departs from this foundation, first by focusing on the holistic reacquisition experience. Additionally, we do not necessarily aim to support sustainability, but rather hope to design interactions that support people's actual practices, regardless of their motivations. Our method was an ethnographic exploration of secondhand shopping. We recruited participants through 2 primary calls. One, soliciting shoppers interested in sustainable fashion, and the other, soliciting shoppers motivated to craft a unique personal style or brand. After conducting 20 phone screeners, we selected 13 participants for in-depth ethnographic interviews. This involved a larger sit-down conversation, followed by an exploration to a vintage, thrift, consignment, or other store of the participants' choosing. These visits ranged from 2 to 5 hours in length and were documented through video, photographs, and audio. Data was analyzed through a collaborative, inductive approach. Like others, we found that our participants were true recirculators who saw the acquisition and disposal of items as a cyclical process. This process begins with buying. For example, a woman may purchase a Chanel second dress, used or new, from an online or an offline outlet. This dress changes as it is worn over time. Physically, it may acquire a hole in the waist. It may also become more valuable to the owner through positive memories, for example, if the dress is worn to a friend's marriage or a graduation ceremony. The dress may be modified. Its owner might fix a hole in the waist or simply augment the dress with a vintage belt or a patch. Finally, an item's life cycle ends when it is once again recirculated, whether gifted, swapped, or sold. For recirculators, items are disposed of only as a last resort. We analyzed the practices of our recirculators first in terms of secondhand experiences. For this presentation, I will focus on the values of reacquisition, information on the objects and how those are evaluated, and also the places that inform style and behavior can be found in our paper. I will also present 3 shopping orientations to build off of previous research in HCI and related fields. While shopping practices differed between participants, we heard a number of common values. We expressed these in the forms of positive and negative value pairs because this is how our participants explain them to us. We note that these values are constantly shifting and may come into conflict with one another. For example, some may generally seek to limit their possessions, while at the same time explaining that they may hoard items with special meaning. Some participants reconstructed consumption by practicing alternate modes of commerce, for example, by swapping clothing with friends or strangers. Lydia explained that her stepdaughter often feels guilty buying new things firsthand because her mother has a shopping problem. So Lydia takes her stepdaughter to swap meets, which she describes as a total healing balm, because we go and everything is free. But despite alternative practices, many participants recognize that they still occasionally buy into consumption myths, for example, by going thrift shopping to feel better after a hard day at work. In addition to objecting to the process of consumption, many of our participants took issue with this sheer quantity of objects that accumulated over time. To this end, many try to limit the number of things that they own, regardless of these coming from first or secondhand sources. Kira, for example, has a rule that for every 5 items she purchases, she must get rid of 3. Many of our participants value fixing or repurposing items over buying and then simply discarding them. Lucy, who works for a clothing store, enjoys searching for and rescuing objects from various sources. In this photo, she shows off a fabric sample salvaged from her company's giveaway bin. She explains, "I pull these from the booths quite often, the giveaway bin. They throw away a lot of fabric, so I bring it in." Many participants value a unique personal style over blind adherence to a fashion authority. Yet, there is a continuous back and forth between individual style and mainstream fashion. For example, many participants started thrift shopping as a practice to support a popular remix style. As Agnes explains, "I used to subscribe to 17 magazine, and I remember that there was this article and it had, wacky ways to make your clothes. So I guess this article, I was like 14, gave me, confirmed, supported my ideas of what to wear." In addition, some shoppers are loyal to certain mainstream brands and pursue these through secondhand sources. On a similar note, many secondhand shoppers avoid goods made globally and in large factories in favor of local goods made on smaller scales. But some shoppers believe that buying an item secondhand can cleanse poor manufacturing practices by effectively rebranding clothing as a local good. As Axel explains, "While I'm still buying the same clothing that may have been made in another country, at least I know that the money isn't going directly to that company, it's going to a local store." Finally, items that have special meaning are valued over generic items. In this picture, Lucy shows off a shirt that was knit by her grandmother. The tag reads, "From the needles of Mary Ann Frances Jones." This shirt is valued for the familial connection, for the superior craftsmanship, and also because it is unique from any other sweater that Lucy's friends will wear. Despite hearing many common values, we observed a wide variety of practices and preferences during the shopping experiences. Excuse me. Analyzing the experiences of different participants allowed us to identify 3 shopping orientations: perfection seeking, compromising, and digging. Perfection seekers shop to support a unique personal style or brand. Axel owns multiple pairs of vintage boots from the same manufacturer in slightly different styles. This allows him to maintain a fashion identity that is cohesive as well as unique. These shoppers prefer spaces such as vintage stores and boutiques that are curated to support a certain style or mood. The small size of these spaces also allows perfection seekers to develop an almost encyclopedic knowledge of inventory. Axel will visit his favorite store multiple times over the course of a week and can tell at a glance when new items arrive. The orientation of perfection seekers is inward. The items they buy are absorbed into their fashion identities. For this reason, perfection seekers often have a higher attachment to items than shoppers in other orientations. While these shoppers generally prefer to shop alone, they share their finds with a like-minded community who appreciates their sense of style. This photograph shows Madeline in a typical pattern dress. She is affectionately called by good friends the walking couch because of the patterns that I wear. Madeline also wears a button displaying a gold tooth that was designed by a close friend who had a gold tooth put into his mouth. Like her dress, this button will be appreciated most by her inner circle with unique knowledge of what different items signify. Shoppers in the compromising orientation love the experience of secondhand shopping itself. When shopping with friends, they enjoy larger thrift stores which offer a larger playground. When alone, they visit smaller stores because these are staffed with personnel that they can talk to. Compromising shoppers love items with stories and may imagine the histories or the potential futures of the objects that they find. In this picture, Rachel is imagining how she could build a mermaid costume around the purple shirt to justify spending $35 on something that she would not normally buy. On the flip side, these shoppers are willing to compromise on pieces that are not their ideal, but that are so inexpensive they are impossible to pass up. This orientation is shared. Compromising shoppers love shopping together and also sharing clothes, whether through lending or gifting. They desire a high level of social interaction. Many try to involve me in the shopping experience, either by asking for my opinion as a woman or by selecting clothes for me to try on. They share the experience itself and also the stories of the items that they find. On one hand, sharing supports collective negotiations around an object's value. Here, Lucy talks Rachel into buying the green dress by confidently asserting, "You'll wear it." Objects are also valued as conversation pieces that will support later social interaction. Shoppers practicing our final orientation, digging, are driven to find spectacular things. They are drawn to large thrift stores because these spaces have the largest inventory, and also because they are not curated and do not reflect the taste of others. The best items for diggers are diamonds in the rough, or things that other shoppers might overlook. The orientation of diggers is outward. They value the objects themselves. Diggers desire a low level of social interaction because they believe that other humans slow them down or distract them from the things they are pursuing. They share their finds after the shopping experience is complete. The photograph on this slide is a chandelier that Vivian found, cleaned up, and showed off on Instagram. She explains, "I saw it, and I was like, that's either 1,000% fabulous or complete junk. I went home, hosed it down, washed it, scrubbed it, hosed it. Dirt coming off. A huge part of it for me is the treasure hunt aspect, the lottery aspect. Pay a little bit for the potential of something incredible." These three orientations have some features in common with the profiles advanced by other researchers. However, unlike other researchers who believe that shoppers have one or at most two orientations, we find that our shoppers experience many orientations at different points in time. We saw orientations change when shoppers moved from one store to another. When looking for clothing in a consignment shop, Maura was a social compromiser who loved telling stories about how she would wear different pieces to different costume parties. As we moved to an upscale boutique, Maura focused more on the items themselves and evaluated different dresses based on how they would fit in with her existing wardrobe and her life. She involved others only when looking for extra information about a piece or when soliciting options about how something looked on her. Orientations also change within stores. On the left, Vivian is acting as a gleeful digger, showing off a designer dress. As a digger, Vivian describes herself as laser-focused, like pew, pew. On the right, she is a social compromiser, trying to figure out how my style will work with the different dresses that she finds. Vivian prides herself on her sense of taste and notes that she is often recruited to take her friends shopping because she can identify quality clothing and also find pieces that suit different personalities. I'd like to conclude with two general prompts for design. By observing our perfection seekers and our diggers, we realize that reacquisition is a skilled practice. For example, our perfection seekers knew their preferred style and preferred shopping spaces inside out. Our diggers were able to parse an incredible volume of inventory to find their diamonds in the rough. For perfection seekers, secondhand shopping is therefore a way to practice a chosen craft. For diggers, the ability to find things of value that others overlook is a competitive advantage. Indeed, many diggers will sell the items that they uncover to earn a profit. While there is a trend to simplify many online experiences, simplifying shopping would be detrimental to the preferred experiences of both types of shoppers. We do see opportunities for using personalization to benefit shoppers expressing these orientations. Human personalization might take the form of a tagging system, allowing users to convey a mood such as vintage couch. Algorithmic matching could connect like-minded buyers and sellers on virtual platforms such as Etsy or eBay. By observing all of our shoppers, but especially our compromisers, we learn that reacquisition is an inherently pleasurable experience. Pleasure is found in the complex sensory experiences of secondhand shopping, for example, through a visual look and feel of a certain store. Pleasure is also found in the process of storytelling, either as constructing a narrative about how an item is found and repurposed, or by connecting a piece to a shared community style. To support the need for storytelling, experiences could be designed to capture and convey the history of an item. One group of researchers working with Oxfam Charity are using QR codes to help shoppers trace the provenance of a specific piece. But users are also interested in writing their own stories about the future of the objects that they find. To this end, a secondhand space might allow buyers and sellers to collectively imagine how old or damaged items could be repurposed to earn a new lease on life. Finally, we note that reacquisition is a complex sensory experience. Shoppers appreciate visual merchandising, like the shopping rack shown at right. This is easy to implement in a physical or an online space. They also describe the sense of different pieces, both in positive terms, such as antique cedar chest, and in negative terms, such as bleachy. As technology develops, olfactory information could be linked to secondhand sale. To recap, we conducted an ethnographic exploration of 13 shoppers in the San Francisco Bay Area. We were interested in the broad experiences of these reacquirers and observed a number of common themes around values, objects, and places, also identifying 3 shopping orientations. Future research might reduce the scope and scale of this study by focusing on one aspect of reacquisition, such as swap meets. Future research might also expand the scope and scale by targeting new geographies or by examining how practices change over time. I'd like to thank my collaborators because this was an amazing research project. I'd also like to thank my audience, and I'm happy to answer any questions either in person or later through email.
Hello, thank you for a very nice presentation and a lovely topic. My name is Oskar Julin, Stockholm University. Finding style is one thing when you shop for clothes, but finding the correct size is another thing. And secondhand shopping must have ways of handling this if you compare to walking into a traditional shop where one item comes in various sizes, and here it just comes in one. So could you comment on how the size problem is handled and how it relates to the ways of buying as you found?
Yeah, so you absolutely identified a very big problem, and it's exacerbated by the fact that what is a size 2 now was probably a size 4 or a 6 10 to 20 years ago. And all I can say is on online spaces like eBay, there's a lot of measuring and a lot of putting that in as metadata about a piece. And on physical brick and mortar stores, there's a lot of trying on. And in both spaces, there's a lot of disappointment. And in some cases, that's just disappointing. And in other cases, it makes it more exciting when truly spectacular things that also fit are found.
So there's no variations in between how they relate to size. So it's like having things that really fit and then being like more, no?
I don't think I understand.
I mean, it's like if you could compromise with size if you find the style that really fits you. So when you walk out of a secondhand store with clothes, you look like you bought them in a secondhand store. So it's the variation in between your orientation to size.
Some people also modify the pieces by sewing them, which you can correct to a bit, and others just embrace it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So I was wondering, I like this idea of stories being attached to the garments and things, but do you think maybe that the stories might put people off sometimes? Like if I find out some guy died in my
Some people would probably hesitate to buy that shirt, yes. But that's also another opportunity to make a story by rebranding the shirt that someone died in before you put it on the secondhand market.
So just before we start, I should say that